Good day, everyone. We are the Group 8. Okay, so for today's video, we will be discussing to you about our topic. So before we discuss on it, I have a picture on my slide that shows about what our topic is all about. So what have you noticed to this picture, class? Do you have any idea regarding on it? Can you guess what this picture is all about? Okay, very good. So, that is the social construction of sexuality. So, our topic for today is all about the social construction of sexuality. So, having sex is held to be a natural thing after all. A culture, in order to survive, must reproduce, and copulation is the usual way. And if copulation is to occur, both males and females must have some propensity of sexual behavior. So, a discussion in the social construction of sexuality um, lays bare the system of beliefs that underlies the double standard of the many forms of prostitution, sexual violence against women, and the regulation of women's reproductive options. And understanding on the systematic nature of the sexual and social dominance of men can help us work out of social practice that is based on the personal development of both men and women. Okay, so in the social construction of sexuality by Stephen Seidman investigates that the political and social consequences of privileging certain sexual practices and identifies while stigmatizing others. So it addressing a range of topics from gay and lesbian identities to sex work. Sidman delves into issues of social control that inform popular beliefs and moral standards. Okay, so the perspective on sexuality. So sexual is a particular exclusive or elusive subject. It shifts from biology or hormones to poetry or a romantic love to article of fetishes. So what is sexual varies from one culture to another within the same culture in different periods, or even from group to group in one culture in the same period. But a common understanding of the sexual is behavior related to sexual intercourse. Sexuality here refers to the whole area of behavior related sexual intercourse. Okay, since the present collection is about relations between women and men, that is the gender or, mm, yes, gender, and the social dominance of men within these relations. The discussion focuses on a heterosexual genital sexuality and on the continuity, normatively speaking, between gender identity and genital sexuality. That is, a male host erotic sexual object is female and a female host erotic sexual object is a male. Okay, so let's proceed to the how people become sexual. There is a three views on it. So I have uh, to discuss to you about the three views of how people become sexual. So first views, it based on the Based on the uh, first perspective, it drawn from biology and sociobiology, claims that a human have a sex drive and that is derived is different females and for males and females as a result of genetic example hormonal differences. Therefore, the argument continues, it is but natural for women and men to have different sexualities. Okay, so this views has been challenged by a wealth of scientific evidence which shows that culture and learning are so powerful in the human situation as to override hormonal differences in sexual genital excitability that exist among females and males are directly related to differences in their social, cultural, and sexual experiences. Sorry. An example is parental and societal restrictions on girls. Differences in the thresholds of arousals of men and women are more a matter of social learning than of sex hormones. And finally, differences in types of sexual, similar or erotic imaginary to which females and males respond, females to more romantic and emotional while males to the genitally sexual and erotic reflect features of the social world of the sexes more than the wealth or depth of sex hormones. On the other hand, studies on human sexual response in males and females during copulations and organisms shows identical cycles and psychological or sociological reactions. Okay, so let's proceed to the second perspective. So from the school of psychoanalysis, does not see sexuality as a result to genitality or simply the expression of a biological drive. It is always a psychosexuality, a system of conscious and unconscious human fantasies involving a range of excitation that produce pleasure behind the satisfaction of any basic psychological need. Okay, so let's proceed to the last one, which is the last perspective. Oh, from the social learning theory argues that area of meaning and conduct called sexuality that accumulated by means of social learning without aid of a sex drive or instinct. Okay, so when human beings are born into a culture, they immediately begin a process of acquiring symbols and meanings or scripts from the world around them as they learn who they are and as they develop a gender and sexual identity. Sexual behavior, like any other, is socially scripted before, and if women and men behave differently, it is because the availability or available scripts for them to learn are different. But people shape their environment and are not merely shaped it by it, so that they acquire scripts as well as create their own scripts. Okay, so that's all for the three views of perspective of how people become sexual. Okay, so let's proceed to the social construction of sexuality. So, the social learning and psychoanalytic perspective approach sexuality from different aspects and are unlikely to achieve a synthesis on how one becomes a sexual being. What they similarly maintain, however, is the connection between sexuality and the social order. Both these perspectives reject the preeminence of biological factors in determining differences between male and female sexualities and recognize the major influence of culture. Okay, so let's proceed to the sexuality and social change. So, pre-colonial sexual practice. Okay, so pre-Hispanic Philippine was a subsistence economy. It had a relatively fluid social structure consisting mostly of kin and the relatively and the means of livelihood and land was held in common. The social structure had a strata, but most of these were not based on exploitation as we know it today. The social division of labor was not elaborate, and sexual divisions were not sharply drawn. Sexuality was tied to this type of economy and social structure. Sexual relations took place in a variety of relations and in many communities. Chastity for either women or men was not a premium. This meant that to a large extent, women's premarital sexuality was not a subject to extreme regulation by the community in general and by man in particular. So, this lack of concern for women's premarital sexuality coincided that their relative freedom and autonomy within the social and economic sphere. Okay, so the colonial impositions. Spanish colonizations and Spanish Catholicism gradually changed sexual practices and meanings. So the Spanish conquistadors and friars exported not only their economic politics, they also exported a male-dominated Judeo-Christian view of the sexuality, a view that was imposed in a variety of ways on the conquered population. Prominent in this view were the connections it made. Procreation was the primary purpose of sexuality, and sexuality was tied to morality, so that sexual relations outside of marriage become sinful. But in the Philippines, as in Europe, a male-dominated Spanish culture and religion emphasized the purity and chastity of women while acknowledging and tolerating the baser drives and desires of men. Okay, so that's all for my report this day. To for more discussion, let's proceed to the second reporter.